Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to conduct activity on solar and lunar eclipse. So before starting our activity, first we are going to revise few topics or few concepts regarding it. Okay. So children, what do you mean by the term eclipse? Eclipse means it is an occasion when the moon or the sun seems to completely or partially disappear because one of them is passing between the other and the earth. Okay. See children, we know that eclipse occurs on new moon day and full moon day. Okay, but it is not necessary that on every new moon day and on every full moon day it is going to occur. Okay, we have to keep in mind. Eclipse, they are of two types. Okay, there is solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Okay children, so first of all we are going to study the occurrence of solar eclipse. Okay children, we are going to study the occurrence of solar eclipse. Now here children, you can clearly see that this is our Earth's orbital path and this is our moon's orbital path. We know very well Earth rotates around its own axis and it revolves around the sun, right? Similarly, moon rotates around its own axis and it revolves around the earth. Okay, we know this, right? So while the revolution of the moon, when it revolves around the earth, okay, it actually, while rotating, it comes in between the sun and the earth. Okay, this moon, it comes between the sun and the earth. Okay children, so here on each new moon day, the lines joining the earth and the sun and the moon, they make an angle of 0 degree, right? It makes an angle of what? 0 degree. Okay, so here you can see that it is making an angle of 0 degree. These lines, they are joining the earth, the sun and the moon, they make an angle of 0 degree. Okay, so now here, if the moon is between the sun and the earth, the shadow of the moon, okay, the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. Yes, yes or no? We receive sun rays from here, right? Moon is receiving light from the sun. So now what happens? As the moon is between the sun and the earth, the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. So at such time, these three celestial objects, children, these three celestial objects, the sun, the moon and the earth, okay, they are on the same plane and in one line. They are on the same plane and in one line, right? Hence the place on the earth where the moon's shadow falls, okay, what happens? It experiences a solar eclipse. Okay, children. So see, here we can see that the shadow of the moon is falling on this region. So this region is going to experience what? Solar eclipse. Okay. Now this shadow is again of two types. Okay, children. The shadow is of this shadow which is falling on the earth. It is again of two types. Okay. So the central portion of the shadow is darker and periphery is light. So in the area of dark shadow on the earth, the sun becomes completely invisible. So this region, children, this region is experiencing dark shadow, children. So what happens here? In this region, the sun becomes completely invisible. So this condition is known as what? Total solar eclipse, children. What it knows, this condition is known as what? Total solar eclipse. Now see children, during the same period, at the places where the shadow is lighter, the sun disk appears partially covered. What happens, children? The sun disk, it appears partially covered. Okay. So this condition is described as partial solar eclipse. Okay, children. So see here, the total solar eclipse is seen in a very limited region of the earth. So this was our children total and partial solar eclipse. But we also know that there is another term, that is annular solar eclipse, children, right? So what happens, children? Sometimes the moon is in the apogee position. Now apogee means what? When the moon is far away from the earth, right? So at this position, what happens? Because the moon is far away from the earth, what happens? The deep shadow of the moon is cast in space. Okay, the shadow of the moon will be casted in the space. Okay, and it does not reach towards the earth. Okay, it will not reach towards the earth. So from a very small region of the earth, only an illuminated edge of the sun disk is seen. And how it is seen? It is seen in the form of a ring. Okay, it is seen in the form of ring shape. Okay, so this is called as annular eclipse. Okay, annular solar eclipse. Now see, children, this is again a rare phenomena. Okay, yes. So now we have studied about, children, we have studied about the solar eclipse. Now we are going to learn about lunar eclipse. Okay. So now we know very well that moon is revolving around the earth, right? It is rotating around its own axis and it is revolving around the earth. So now while it is revolving, what happens when moon actually comes under the shadow of the earth? When the moon is in this position, children, now what happens? We are going to see. Okay, now see, children, a lunar eclipse occurs when the moon enters the shadow of the earth. Here you can see clearly that moon has entered the shadow of the earth. Okay, and see, children, lunar eclipse occurs on full moon day, but not on every full moon day. Okay, so on each full moon day, children, what happens? We have studied angles made by the earth, moon and sun, right? So in that, what we have studied that on each full moon day, the lines joining the earth, the sun and the moon, they make an angle of 180 degree, right? Here it is making an angle of 180 degree during each full moon day. Okay, so now here you can see that lunar eclipse occurs on a full moon day. So when the moon enters the shadow of the earth while revolving around it, during this full moon, during this lunar eclipse occurs. Okay, so at this time it is necessary, okay, children, it is very important that the earth is between the sun and the moon, right? Here you can see the earth is between the sun and the moon. Okay, so now as we know that we receive light from the, we receive heat and light from the sun, right? Okay, so now what happens here? The shadow of the earth, moon is actually under the shadow of the earth. Okay, so now here, and during this position, what happens? We can see that the sun, earth and moon, they are actually lying in the same plane, and they are falling in one straight line. You can clearly see here. Okay, so on a full moon day, the moon's path of revolution passes through the thick shadow of the earth. Can you see here? It is actually falling under the thick shadow of the earth. So if the moon is totally hidden within the shadow, okay, children, here the moon is completely, it is totally hidden within the shadow of the earth. We see a total lunar eclipse taking place. Okay, we see what? Total lunar eclipse. And if only a part of the moon is seen in the shadow, okay, and if only the part of moon is seen in the shadow, okay, right, a small part of the moon is seen in the shadow. Okay, so what happens? We see a partial lunar eclipse. Okay, in this condition, what happens? We only observe a partial lunar eclipse. Okay, children, so now we have to keep in mind, okay, we always have to keep in mind that a solar eclipse will occur on a new moon day, but not on every new moon day. Okay, and for its occurrence, it is very important that the sun, the moon and the earth, they are in the same plane and they fall in one line. Okay, children? And in case of lunar eclipse, what happens for the occurrence of lunar eclipse? Okay, it should be the sun, the moon, and the earth. They also should fall in one line, and they should be in the same plane. And this, okay, and a lunar eclipse occurs on full moon day, but not on every full moon day, children. And also a very important, okay, also a very important uh, children, important point we have to keep in mind, that a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse is just an astronomical event. Okay, there is nothing auspicious or inauspicious about these events. Okay, why this event is taking place, children? It is the result of the sun, the earth, and the moon being in specific positions. That's it. Okay, we don't have to believe in any terms which are related to the occurrence of solar and lunar eclipse, that there are some people, they consider it auspicious and some consider it inauspicious. Okay, so we don't have to believe in these things. Okay, children, so here our activity is completed.
I can say yes. Hello friends, my name is Shubhyasha Tiwari and I am gonna give you solar and lunar eclipse information and how it occurs. So first we will learn about the solar eclipse. So when the earth, moon and the sun are in the same plane and in the same line, so the it occurs a solar eclipse. So when the moon shadow falls on the earth's surface, so that surface experiences the solar eclipse. And when the moon revolves around the earth and its shadow falls on the earth experience that place experience the solar eclipse. And there are the two phases also, the partial solar eclipse and the annular solar eclipse, that is also called the total solar eclipse. When the when the shadow of the moon falls on the over overall the surface of the earth, so we experience the total solar eclipse. But when the shadow of the moon falls on some place of the earth only, so we experience the partial solar eclipse. Now we will learn about the lunar eclipse. Okay, so when the sun, earth and the moon are in the same plane and in the same line, and the earth is in between the sun and the moon, so we experience the lunar eclipse. So how we will see here? When the earth's shadow falls on the moon, so the moon's surface covers us with the thick shadow of the earth. And third, we experience the lunar eclipse. When the whole shadow of the earth falls on the moon or surface, so we will experience the total lunar eclipse. And when some place is covered with the shadow of the earth, so we will experience a partial lunar eclipse. So this is all the lunar and the solar eclipse. Now we will learn about the characteristics of it. When there are there are three characteristics of solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So solar eclipse characteristics are: first, it only occurs when the earth, moon and the sun are in the same plane and the same line, and occurs on a new moon day but not on every new moon day. The third characteristic of solar eclipse is that the solar we can see the total solar eclipse only only for 7 minutes and 20 seconds, that is 440 seconds. Now we will learn about the lunar eclipse characteristics. The first characteristic of lunar eclipse is that it only occurs when the sun, earth and the moon are in the same plane and the same line. And the second characteristic of lunar eclipse is that it only occurs on a full moon day but not on every full moon day. And the third characteristic of lunar eclipse is that we can see uh, the total the total lunar eclipse when the for only the 107 minutes.
Good morning to one and all. Myself, Suryanshu Sachinduri. I am studying in Standard 7th Division A. My topic names are solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Solar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when a portion of Earth is submerged in shadow cast by moon, which fully or partially blocks sunlight. This can only occur when sun, moon, and Earth are aligned. Lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse occurs when moon moves into Earth's shadow. This can only occur when sun, earth and moon are exactly or very closely aligned with earth, which between other two and only on night of full moon day, but not on every full moon day. Thank you.
Start.
Good morning, teacher. Myself, Dhananjay Jason Pana, class 7th, roll number 48, device C. I, the solar eclipse occurs on a new moon day, but not on every new moon day. The solar eclipse, the sun, the moon, and the earth is the same plane, and the sun shadow falls in the earth. The solar eclipse, maximum duration of the solar eclipse 107 minutes 20 seconds, total 440 seconds. The lunar eclipse occurs on a full moon day, but not on every full moon day. The lunar eclipse, the sun, the earth, and the moon, the sun, the earth, and the moon, the same plane in the earth shadow fall in the moon. The lunar eclipse total duration is 107 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. I am Roshan Srinivas Shettigar from Standard 7th A, roll number 15. Today, I am going to tell you about solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. Solar eclipse. When the moon lies between the sun and the earth, the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. At such time, the three celestial bodies occur in the same plane and fall in a same line. Hence, where the shadow of the moon occurs on the earth experiences a solar eclipse. There are three types of solar eclipse: partial solar eclipse, total solar eclipse, and annular solar eclipse. Lunar eclipse. When the moon enters the shadow of the earth while revolving around it, a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse occurs. At such time, it is necessary for all those three celestial bodies to occur in same line and the earth to lie between the sun and the moon. There were two types of lunar eclipses: total solar, total lunar eclipse and partial solar eclipse. Partial lunar eclipse. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sakshi Bhagwan Sonone from Standard 7B, roll number 23. My activity is solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. So, solar eclipse. If the moon is between the sun and the earth, the shadow of the moon falls on the earth. Hence, the place on the earth where the moon shadow falls, a solar eclipse. The shadow is of two types. The central portion of the shadow area is a dark shadow of the earth. And lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipse occurs when the moon enters the shadow of the earth while revolving around it. At this time, it is necessary that the earth is between the sun and the moon. If the moon is totally hidden with the shadow, we see a total lunar eclipse, and if only a part of the moon is in the shadow. Thank you.
Good morning. Myself Vaishnavi Subhas Gupta. I am in standard 7A, roll number 15. Today I am going to speak few words about solar and lunar eclipse. First I am going to tell you about eclipses. The partial or total blocking of light of one celestial object by another is known as eclipse. There are two types of eclipses: solar eclipse and lunar eclipse. First, solar eclipse. It occurs when a portion of the earth is angled by the shadow of the moon cast by the moon, which fully or partially blocks the sunlight. This occurs when the sun, moon, and earth are aligned. Such alignment coincides with a new moon, indicating the moon is closest to the ecliptic plane. In a total eclipse, the disk of the sun is fully obscured by the moon. In partial and annular eclipses, only part of sun is obscured. If the moon were in perfectly circular orbit, a little closer to the earth and in the same orbital plane, there would be a total solar eclipse every moon. A maximum duration of a total solar eclipse is 440 seconds, that is 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Next is lunar eclipse. It occurs when the moon moves in the shadow of the earth. This can occur only when the sun, earth, and moon are very closely or exactly aligned. A totally eclipsed moon is sometimes called a blood moon due to its reddish color caused by the earth blocking the sunlight from reaching the moon. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Nisha Yogesh Vedas. My standard is 7, division is C and roll number 21. My topic name is lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. What does mean by lunar eclipse? When the earth moves between the sun and the full moon day, the dark part of the moon visible surface into the dark part of the earth's shadow. Next is total and particular solar eclipse. If the moon is between the sun and the earth, the total solar eclipse are seen very limited region in the earth. Next is annual and particular solar eclipse. Sometimes the moon is in the opposite position, means it is far from the earth, and the deep shadow of the sun falls on the moon. This is called the annual and particular solar eclipse. Thank you, teacher.
Good morning, my dear teachers and my friends. Hope so you all are safe within your home by the event of this pandemic. My name is Sai from Standard 7th A, roll number 27. So let's get started about lunar eclipse. When the earth moves between the sun and the moon, therefore blocking the sun rays from striking the moon, is called a lunar eclipse. This happens when the sun, the earth, and the moon are aligned closely with the earth in the middle. During a lunar eclipse, earth's shadow can be seen on the moon's surface. This was the information about the lunar eclipse. Now I am going to elaborate some information about solar eclipse. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon gets between the earth and the sun, and the moon casts a shadow over the earth. A solar eclipse can only take place at the phase of new moon when the moon passes directly between the sun and the earth, and it shows full upon earth's surface. Thank you.